The Silicon Valley night pulsed with anticipation as I, Liam Maxwell, stood on the polished stage of Nexus Corp's grandest product launch, a cathedral of glass and light at 555 California Street. 10,000 eyes fixed on me, their applause a tidal wave crashing against my tailored suit. Behind me, towering screens radiated our latest innovation, a quantum processor destined to redefine humanity's digital frontier. My voice, steady and commanding, wove a vision of progress. Each word meticulously crafted to cement my legacy as a titan of technology. I was untouchable, the architect of an empire forged in code and ambition, my name synonymous with power. Yet, as I gestured toward the screens, a rogue news alert hijacked the display, shattering the moment. A preschool just 3 miles away in Palo Alto had reported a minor accident, a playground mishap. The footage zoomed in, and there they were, 2 twin girls, Luna and Harper, no older than 5, their faces pale but unharmed. Their eyes, a haunting mirror of my own, locked onto me through the screen. My breath caught, a vice tightening around my chest. Beside them, Chloe Davis, my lost love, knelt in the gravel, her arms wrapped protectively around the girls. Her face, etched with panic, was a ghost from a life I'd buried. The crowd's cheers faded into a distant hum. Those girls, Luna and Harper, were mine. I knew it in my bones. A truth as undeniable as gravity. My daughters, unknown to me until this moment, stared back from a reality I'd never imagined. The stage, the empire, the applause, all of it dissolved. I was no longer the invincible CEO. I was a father, exposed and undone, my world unraveling in the glow of 1,000 screens. The revelation was a blade, cutting through years of denial. I'd build a fortress, but it couldn't shield me from this. My past had found me, and it wore the faces of 2 children I'd never known. I am Liam Maxwell, creator of Nexus Corp, a colossus employing 50,000 souls across 5 continents. At 38, I'd scaled heights few dared dream. My days a blur of boardrooms and private jets, my nights haunted by the hum of servers. I believed success was my identity, each acquisition a brick in the monument of my life. Yet, beneath the veneer of tailored suits and keynote addresses, I was adrift. A man who traded depth for dominion. My heart, once open, had calcified under the weight of ambition. Chloe Davis had been my awakening, a woman whose laughter could unravel my defenses. 5 years ago, she saw through my armor, her free spirit a rebellion against the sterile precision of my world. I loved her fiercely, but love was a luxury I couldn't afford. When she left, I convinced myself it was her choice, her loss. I buried the pain, filling the void with deals and deadlines. Now, standing in the wreckage of that lie, I saw the cost of my blindness. Luna and Harper were my blood, a truth I'd ignored in my pursuit of glory. I wasn't just a CEO, I was a father who'd failed before he'd begun. My empire, once my pride, felt like a hollow crown, its weight crushing the man I might have been. I'd built a legacy, but it wasn't the one that mattered. Seattle's rain was relentless that night 5 years ago. A silver curtain drenching the cobblestones of Pike Place. Chloe and I, caught in the downpour, surrendered to the moment, dancing under flickering streetlights. Her laughter, wild and unscripted, was a melody that drowned out the city's pulse. She was a photographer, her soul woven into every frame she captured, her passion a stark contrast to my world of algorithms. I want a life that's real, Liam, she'd said, her eyes alight with conviction. Not polished, not perfect, just true. I promised her everything, my heart, my future, under that rain-soaked sky. But ambition was a siren's call, louder than her voice. A billion-dollar deal pulled me away, and I let her fade, assuming she'd find her own path. When she stopped calling, I told myself she'd moved on, her silence a choice. I buried the ache, locking it away with the memory of her smile. Now, seeing Luna and Harper on that screen, their eyes echoing mine, I understood the depth of my betrayal. Chloe hadn't left. I'd abandoned her. She'd carried our daughters alone, while I chased a hollow throne. The rain of that night lingered in my soul, a reminder of the life I'd forsaken. I'd lost more than Chloe. I'd lost the chance to know my children, to be the father they deserved. My heart, once numb, now bled with the weight of that unwritten story, a narrative I could no longer ignore. The hospital corridor in Palo Alto stretched endlessly. its sterile fluorescence stinging my eyes as I raced to find Chloe and the girls. I was still Liam Maxwell, CEO, but the title felt like a borrowed skin, ill-fitting and heavy. Nurses glanced at me, their whispers trailing like shadows. Another rich man chasing a headline, they assumed. At the pediatric wing, I found Chloe outside Luna and Harper's room, her silhouette slumped against the wall. Her eyes, once warm as a summer dawn, met mine with a frost that chilled my core. "You don't belong here, Liam," she said, her voice a blade honed by years of solitude. I tried to speak, but her gaze silenced me, a jury convicting me of abandonment. The girls were safe, the doctor had said, just minor bruises from the playground fall. Yet, Chloe's coldness was a verdict. I was an intruder, not a father. Around us, families moved with quiet purpose, their bonds a language I didn't speak. I stood alone, a stranger in a world I'd helped create but couldn't enter. My wealth, my power, meant nothing here. The boardroom battles and stock market triumphs that defined me were irrelevant in this place of heartbeats and hushed prayers. I was isolated, not by distance, but by the chasm of my own choices. Chloe turned away, her silence louder than any accusation, leaving me to face the truth. I'd built an empire, but lost my place in the only world that mattered now. The sting of Chloe's rejection lingered as I lingered outside the girls' room. The glass window framing Luna and Harper like a photograph I wasn't part of. Chloe sat between their beds, reading softly, her voice a lullaby I'd never heard. I overheard her friend, Sarah, arrive. Their conversation a knife twisting in my chest. 5 years, Chloe, and not a word from him, Sarah said. You raised them alone. No help, no call returned. Chloe's reply was weary but resolute. I stopped expecting him to care. Each word was a mirror, reflecting my selfishness. I'd been told Chloe had tried to reach me. Hundreds of calls, emails, even letters, all intercepted by Marcus, my trusted assistant. He deemed her a distraction, a threat to my ascent, and buried her attempts under the guise of protecting me. I'd never questioned the silence, too consumed by my own ambitions to notice. The betrayal wasn't just Marcus's, it was mine. I'd chosen ignorance, letting my empire's machinery erase the woman I loved and the children we'd created. The hospital's hum faded as guilt consumed me, a tide pulling me under. I'd failed them not by absence alone, but by building a life that left no room for their existence. Chloe's strength, her solitary fight, exposed my weakness. I was the architect of my own exile, and the weight of that truth was heavier than any corporate crown I'd ever worn. I couldn't stay on the sidelines any longer. The hospital's clock ticked mercilessly, each second a reminder of time lost. I knocked softly on the door, my heart pounding like a novice before a judge. Chloe looked up, her expression a fortress, but I stepped inside, driven by a force stronger than fear. Chloe, I didn't know, I began, my voice trembling but resolute. I swear, I didn't know about Luna, about Harper, about you. Her eyes narrowed, skepticism a shield, but I pressed on. I'm here now, and I'm not leaving. The words felt fragile, inadequate against the years of her solitude, but they were my first rebellion against the man I'd been. I wasn't just defying Chloe's distrust. I was challenging the life I'd built, the one that valued contracts over connections. Luna stirred, her small hand reaching for Chloe's. And I saw my own eyes in hers, a connection I wouldn't let slip away. I didn't expect forgiveness, not yet, but I refused to be the ghost in their story any longer. This was my stand. Small but unshakable, against the empire of my past. I'd been a spectator in my own life, but now I was stepping into the frame, ready to fight for a place in theirs, no matter how long it took. The hospital room faded as night deepened, leaving me alone with my thoughts in a Palo Alto hotel suite. The city's glow a distant hum beyond the window. Fear coiled in my chest, a serpent whispering doubts I couldn't silence. What if Chloe never let me near Luna and Harper? What if my absence had scarred them, my name a shadow they'd never know? I saw their faces in every corner of my mind. Those eyes, my eyes, staring through me with questions I couldn't answer. I'd built Nexus Corp to conquer uncertainty, yet here I was, powerless against the weight of my own failures. My life, once a straight line of ambition, now felt like a labyrinth with no exit. I paced the room, the carpet muffling my steps. But not the panic rising like a tide. What if I'd lost them forever? Not just Chloe, but the girls, my blood, my chance to be more than a name on a skyscraper. The fear wasn't just of rejection. It was of facing a truth I'd buried. I'd chosen empire over love, and the cost was a family I hadn't known I had. Nightmares crept in, faceless children calling me, their voices drowned by the hum of servers. I was unraveling, my identity as Liam Maxwell, tech titan, crumbling under the weight of a role I'd never played. Father. The world I'd mastered offered no map for this terror, and in its grip, I felt smaller than I'd ever been. Morning brought no relief, only a confrontation that sharpened my dread. I returned to the hospital, determined to see Chloe again, but Marcus, my assistant, was waiting in the lobby, his face a mask of calculated concern. "Liam, you're making a mistake," he said. His voice low but firm, as if addressing a boardroom. He'd followed me from Silicon Valley, armed with news that Nexus Corp's board was in chaos over my absence. "The media is circling," he warned. "They're calling this a publicity stunt. Step back now, or you'll tank the company." His words were a public challenge, each syllable a reminder of the empire I'd built and the scrutiny it invited. I saw it then, headlines on my phone, blogs questioning my motives, tech moguls' hospital stunt sparked speculation. The world I'd shaped was turning on me, painting my attempt to reach my daughters as a performance. Marcus's eyes held no warmth, only the cold logic of loyalty to Nexus, not me. I felt exposed. A man stripped bare before a jury of millions. The hospital's bustle faded as his warning echoed. Walk away, or lose everything. The threat wasn't just to my reputation. It was to the fragile bridge I was building to Luna and Harper. I stood, cornered by the life I'd created, the weight of public judgment a chain I hadn't foreseen. But something stirred within me, a flicker of defiance against the fear and the threats. I looked past Marcus, toward the pediatric wing where Luna and Harper slept. They were more than a headline, more than a risk to my empire. They were my daughters, and Chloe, despite her anger, was the woman I'd never stopped loving. I turned to Marcus, my voice steady despite the storm inside. "I'm not walking away," I said. Each word a stone laid on a new path. Not from them. Not ever. It wasn't just a reply. It was a vow, born from the ashes of my old self. I saw Chloe's face in my mind, her strength a beacon through my fear. I wasn't ready to be the father they needed. Not yet, but I'd fight to become him. The board, the media, Marcus, they could wait. For the first time, I felt a purpose beyond profit, a reason to endure the isolation and the doubt. I stepped past Marcus toward the girls' room, my heart pounding but resolute. This was my survival, not as a CEO, but as a man reclaiming his soul. The world could judge me. I'd face it for them. Back in my Silicon Valley office, the glass walls of Nexus Corp's headquarters reflected a man I barely recognized, disheveled, driven by a question that gnawed at my soul. How had I missed 5 years of my daughters' lives? The revelation of Luna and Harper's existence had cracked the foundation of my identity, and I couldn't rest until I understood the truth. I began digging, my curiosity a quiet fire. I sifted through old emails, searching for traces of Chloe's attempts to reach me. My inbox, a digital fortress, held nothing, no messages, no voicemails. But doubt crept in. Had she really never tried? Or had someone ensured I'd never know? I accessed the company's archived server logs, a labyrinth of data only I could navigate. There, buried in deleted folders, I found fragments, email headers from Chloe, sent 5 years ago, marked as spam by an automated filter. The subject lines were, "Please, Liam, we need to talk, please, it's urgent." My heart sank as I traced the filter's origin to Marcus's account. He'd set it up during my busiest year, when Nexus went public. I pulled up call logs next, cross-referencing Chloe's old number. Hundreds of calls, all blocked, rerouted to a dead-end voicemail. Each discovery was a stone in my chest, heavy with the weight of lost time. I wasn't just a father who'd failed. I was a man betrayed by the systems I'd trusted. The truth was close, but it demanded I look deeper, past the lies I'd let define my world. The deeper I dug, the sharper the truth became, and with it, a warning that chilled me. Late that night, my office phone buzzed, a rare call from Marcus himself. "Liam, you're stirring things up," he said, his voice smooth but edged with steel. "Let the past stay buried. Focus on Nexus." It wasn't advice, it was a line drawn in the sand. I opened my laptop, finding a new email from an anonymous sender. "Stop digging, Maxwell." or the board will know everything. Attached was a screenshot of an old company memo, one I'd written years ago, dismissing personal distractions as threats to growth. It was a relic of my arrogance. Now a weapon aimed at me. I cross-checked the email's metadata, tracing it to a server linked to Marcus's private account. The pieces clicked. He'd hidden Chloe's attempts to protect my image. My empire. But why warn me now? I found a clue in an old text thread between Marcus and a board member, uncovered in the server logs. Maxwell's personal life can't derail the IPO. They'd seen Chloe as a liability, her pregnancy a scandal to bury. The warning wasn't just about me, it was about protecting their stakes in Nexus. My pursuit of the truth threatened their world. And they'd fight to keep it hidden. Each revelation tightened the noose, but I couldn't stop. Luna and Harper's faces haunted me, their existence a truth I'd never let be silenced again. I stood at the edge of my office, the San Francisco skyline glittering below, and made a choice that would change everything. No more lies, I whispered to myself, the words of vow carved in the air. I drafted an email to Chloe, my fingers trembling. I know about the calls, the emails. I didn't see them until now. I'm sorry, and I'll prove it. I hit send, knowing it might go unanswered. But it was my first step. Then, I called my legal team, instructing them to pull every record of Marcus's actions from 2020, the year Chloe tried to reach me. I wasn't just seeking answers. I was declaring war on the deception that had stolen my family. To the board, I sent a brief message. I'm stepping back from the quantum project. My priorities have changed. It was a grenade lobbed into their world, one that would spark chaos, but I didn't care. Luna and Harper deserved a father, not a phantom. Chloe deserved truth, not silence. I looked at a photo of the girls, sent by the hospital staff, their smiles a beacon. What would you do, I asked myself, if you'd lost everything that mattered? I'd fight, I answered, and I will. This was my stand, my refusal to let the past dictate the future. The truth was my weapon, and I'd wield it, no matter the cost. The decision burned in my chest like a coal, urging me to act despite the risks. I left my Silicon Valley office at dawn, the city still cloaked in mist, and drove to the Palo Alto hospital where Luna and Harper recovered. My heart raced as I approached Chloe's door, knowing she might turn me away again. I knocked, my hand trembling, and when she opened it, her eyes were wary, a fortress against my presence. Chloe. I'm here for them, I said, my voice steady but raw. Let me see Luna and Harper. She hesitated, her silence a wall, but I stepped forward, driven by a need stronger than fear. She relented, leading me to their bedside. The girls, small and fragile under the hospital's fluorescent glow, stirred as I knelt beside them. Luna's hand brushed mine, her touch a jolt that anchored me to this moment. I spoke softly, telling them about the stars outside, words spilling from a place I hadn't accessed in years. Chloe watched, her expression unreadable, but she didn't stop me. It was a reckless move, barging into their world, uninvited, with no claim but blood. Yet, as Harper's eyes met mine, mirroring my own, I felt a connection no empire could rival. I was no longer just Liam Maxwell, CEO. I was a father, staking a claim on a future I'd nearly lost. The risk was immense, Chloe's distrust, the media's scrutiny, but for those fleeting minutes with my daughters, I'd face anything. The moment with Luna and Harper was a fragile victory, but it came with shadows. Chloe allowed me to stay longer, even letting me read to the girls from a worn picture book about constellations. Their giggles, soft and unguarded, were a melody I'd never known I craved. Yet, as I left the room, Chloe's voice stopped me cold. This doesn't change anything, Liam, she said, her tone a mix of exhaustion and resolve. You can't just walk in and be their father. Her words were a barrier, reminding me of the years I'd missed, the trust I'd yet to earn. Outside, my phone buzzed with messages from Nexus Corp's board. Your absence is destabilizing the quantum project. Return immediately or face consequences. The media had escalated, too. Tabloids now spun tales of a tech tycoon's secret family, twisting my intentions into a scandal. Marcus texted, his warning blunt, "You're throwing away everything we built." Each message was a weight, pulling me back to the empire I'd ruled. I tasted a moment of connection with my daughters, but the world I'd created wasn't done with me. The small success of meeting Luna and Harper was real, but it came with a cost. Chloe's guarded heart, the board's impatience, and a public narrative I couldn't control. I stood in the hospital parking lot, the California sun harsh on my face, caught between the man I was and the father I wanted to be. I drove back to my office, the road blurring as I made a choice that felt like shedding skin. I wouldn't let the board, Marcus, or the media dictate my path. In my office, I drafted a public statement, my fingers steady on the keyboard. I am stepping back from Nexus Corp's quantum project to focus on personal matters. My daughters and their mother deserve my time. I sent it to the press, knowing it would ignite a firestorm. Then, I called Chloe, leaving a voicemail when she didn't answer. I'm not here to take anything from you. I just want to be part of their lives, however you'll let me. It was a pledge, not just to her, but to myself. I looked at a photo of Luna and Harper on my desk, their smiles a compass. What would you do? I asked myself, if you had a chance to rewrite your story. I'd choose them, every time. I wasn't the man who'd ignored Chloe's calls 5 years ago. I was someone new, forged in the crucible of regret. The board could rage, the headlines could scream, I'd face them all. My commitment wasn't to Nexus anymore. It was to Luna, Harper, and Chloe, to a life built on presence, not power. This was my line in the sand, and I'd hold it, no matter the storm. The Nexus Corp boardroom in San Francisco, a sleek arena of glass and steel, was packed with executives, their faces taut with anticipation. I'd called an emergency meeting. My public statement about stepping back from the quantum project still reverberating through the media. Cameras flashed as I entered, the room's silence heavy with unspoken questions. I stood at the head of the table, no longer the untouchable CEO but a man bearing his soul. 5 years ago, I began, my voice steady. I was kept from my daughters, Luna and Harper, by decisions made in this very room. The executive shifted, uneasy, as I recounted Chloe's attempts to reach me, calls blocked, emails buried. I projected server logs onto the screen. Each entry a testament to the truth. Marcus, my assistant, had orchestrated the silence to protect Nexus's IPO. The room erupted in murmurs, the weight of my words sinking in. I wasn't just exposing a betrayal, I was dismantling the myth of my invincibility. The media, live streaming the event, captured every moment, their lenses amplifying my vulnerability to millions. I spoke of Chloe's strength, raising our girls alone, and my failure to be there. I'm stepping away, I declared, because my family is my priority now. The room held its breath. The world watching as I chose love over empire, a public reckoning that could either save or destroy me. The spotlight turned to Marcus, his composed facade cracking as I presented the evidence. I displayed the email filters he'd set, the call logs he'd rerouted, and a memo he'd drafted to the board, labeling Chloe a potential risk to Nexus's image. You hid my daughters from me, I said. My voice calm but unyielding, each word a blade. Marcus stammered, his defense thin. I was protecting you, Liam, the company. But the room saw through him. A board member, Claire, stood. Her voice sharp. You acted without authority, Marcus. This wasn't protection, it was control. I played a recording, retrieved from the server, of Marcus instructing an IT staffer to bury all personal correspondence from Chloe. The executives gasped, their trust in him shattered. Marcus's eyes darted, seeking allies, but found none. The media frenzy intensified outside, reporters shouting questions as the live feed broadcast his fall. I didn't relish his ruin. I felt only the weight of truth. Chloe's face flashed in my mind. Her years of solitude a debt I could never repay. Marcus wasn't the only villain. My own ambition had paved the way, but exposing him was my atonement, a step toward reclaiming the father I could be. The boardroom, once my kingdom, was now a stage where my past was laid bare, and I stood unflinching. The air shifted as the world responded. Outside, the media scrum grew. But the tone of their questions softened. A reporter from the Chronicle asked, Mr. Maxwell, what do you hope for with your daughters? It was the first time they saw me as a father, not a tycoon. On social media, posts began to surface, parents sharing stories of reconnection, praising my courage to prioritize family. A hashtag family over empire, trended, with thousands retweeting my statement. In the boardroom, Claire approached me after the meeting, her eyes warm. You did the right thing, Liam, she said, a nod of respect I hadn't expected. Other executives followed, their skepticism giving way to quiet support. The public's gaze, once predatory, began to reflect empathy. A viral post from a single mother read, Liam Maxwell's story reminds us, It's never too late to choose love. Yet, I knew this was an absolution. Chloe hadn't responded to my emails, and Luna and Harper were still strangers to me. But the shift was undeniable. The world was listening, not to the CEO, but to the man. What would you do? I wondered, if the world judged your heart. I'd let them, I decided. If it meant reaching my girls. The tide was turning, not just for me, but for the truth I'd fought to unveil. The boardroom's echoes faded. But victory felt hollow as I retreated to my San Francisco penthouse, the city's lights sprawling below like a map of my former life. Doubt seeped into my bones. A quiet venom questioning every choice. Had I done right by exposing Marcus, or had I merely traded one empire's chaos for another's ruin? The media hailed me as a hero, but their praise rang false against the silence from Chloe. What if my public stand had pushed her further away, cementing me as an intruder in Luna and Harper's world? I stared at a photo of the girls, their smiles a mirror to my own, and wondered if I was chasing a redemption I didn't deserve. My life's work, Nexus Corp, its quantum dreams, was teetering because of me. Had I sacrificed too much, burned bridges that could never be rebuilt? The man I'd been, the one who thrived on control, whispered that I'd faltered. That love was a gamble I wasn't built to win. I paced the penthouse, its sterile luxury a cage. Each step heavier with the fear that I was still the same Liam Maxwell who'd chosen ambition over Chloe 5 years ago. Was I fooling myself, believing I could be a father, a partner, when my past screamed otherwise? The weight of my choices pressed down, a storm within, threatening to drown the man I hoped to become. The storm broke as I sat alone. The penthouse dark save for a single lamp casting shadows like specters of my past. My deepest fear surfaced, raw and unyielding. What if no one truly needed me? Not Nexus, not Chloe. Not even Luna and Harper. I'd built an empire to prove my worth, but it hadn't filled the void left by that rainy night in Seattle, when Chloe's laughter was my home. I closed my eyes, and memories flooded in. My father's cold dismissal when I was a boy, his voice sharp. You're not enough, Liam. That wound, buried deep, had driven me to conquer industries. But it also made me flee from love, from vulnerability. I saw Chloe's face, her strength in raising our girls alone, and felt the terror of being irrelevant to her story. What if my return was a disruption, not a salvation? Nightmares crept in, Luna and Harper turning away, their eyes no longer mine. Chloe's voice saying, "We're better without you." My hand shook as I gripped the photo of my daughters, the paper creasing under my fingers. I was fighting a world that didn't want me, a man battling his own shadow. The fear wasn't just of losing them. It was of discovering I'd never been enough to keep them. In that moment, I was laid bare, a soul trembling before its own fragility. But dawn brought clarity, a faint light filtering through the penthouse windows, warming the cold edges of my doubt. I stood, the photo of Luna and Harper in hand, and faced the mirror. You're not perfect, I told my reflection, but you're here. The words were a lifeline, pulling me from the abyss. I wasn't the boy my father scorned, nor the man who'd abandoned Chloe. I was flawed, yes, but capable of change. I thought of Chloe's resilience, her unyielding love for our girls, and saw a path forward, not in erasing my mistakes, but in learning from them. I didn't need to be flawless to be a father. I needed to be present, to fight for them every day. The fear lingered, but it no longer ruled me. I wrote a letter to Chloe, unsent, pouring out my regrets and hopes. I'll earn your trust, not demand it. It was a promise to her, to the girls, to myself. What would you do, I asked, if you could start again? I'd choose to stay. I answered, to build a life worth living. I stepped into the morning, the city waking below, and felt a quiet strength. I was Liam Maxwell, not the Titan, but the man, ready to embrace his imperfections and fight for the family he'd found. The world outside my San Francisco penthouse roared with divided voices, a tempest stirred by my boardroom confession. Social media split like a fault line. Some lauded me as a beacon of redemption, their posts under hashtag family over empire swelling with stories of family reconciled. A single mother's tweet, "Maxwell's courage gives me hope," gained 10,000 shares. Yet, others saw betrayal, branding me a reckless captain abandoning Nexus Corp's ship. Tech blogs screamed, "Liam Maxwell's exit threatens quantum future." Comment sections seethed with venom. "He's faking it for clout." One user spat. Another called me a billionaire playing victim. The public's gaze, Once a mirror of empathy, now fractured into a kaleidoscope of judgment. Even in Palo Alto, where I visited Luna and Harper, strangers stared, some with warmth, others with suspicion, as if my motives were a puzzle to dissect. The media frenzy fed the divide, with cable news debating my fall from grace on split screens, one side praising my humanity, the other decrying my irresponsibility. I walked through the city, the weight of their voices pressing against me. Each step a reminder that my choice to prioritize family had turned me into a lightning rod. What would you do, I wondered, when the world splits over your heart's truth? I clung to the image of my daughter's faces, their innocence a shield against the storm, but the divide tore at my resolve, threatening to unravel the man I was becoming. The storm grew fiercer as my family, the Maxwells, struck back, their influence a blade honed by generations of power. My mother, Evelyn, summoned me to our Manhattan estate. Her voice icy over the phone, "You're tarnishing our name, Liam." I flew to New York, entering the penthouse where Evelyn, flanked by my brothers Daniel and Robert, waited like a tribunal. Evelyn's eyes, sharp as cut glass, fixed on me. "This Chloe and her children," she said. "They're a liability. We'll pay them to disappear." She slid a contract across the table, $10 million for Chloe to leave with Luna and Harper, no questions asked. Daniel chimed in. "You're risking our legacy for a fling." Their words were a coordinated assault, each syllable laced with the Maxwell creed, reputation above all. They'd leaked stories to the press, framing Chloe as a gold digger. Her silence bought by my absence. A tabloid headline flashed in my mind. Tech heiress or opportunist? I saw their strategy, discredit Chloe to save the family's image, forcing me back to Nexus. Their counterattack wasn't just personal, it was a public campaign, with anonymous sources feeding lies to blogs, painting me as a fool ensnared by a past mistake. I stood, my fist clenched, facing the family I'd once obeyed. Their power was immense, but I saw Luna's smile, Harper's eyes, and knew I'd fight their empire with everything I had. Their assault pushed me to the edge, cornering me in a world I'd helped build. Back in San Francisco, the board escalated, threatening a vote to oust me as CEO if I didn't return to the quantum project. "You're replaceable, Liam." A director texted, his words a cold slap. The media, fueled by my family's leaks, turned vicious, with talk shows dissecting my midlife crisis. Chloe, too, remained a fortress. Her latest message blunt, "Your family's offer proves you're still one of them." Her distrust was a knife, twisting deeper because I understood it. I stood alone in my office, the city skyline mocking my isolation. Friends from Nexus distanced themselves, their emails curt, their calls unanswered. The Maxwell's influence had severed my ties, leaving me a pariah in the tech world I'd ruled. I looked at a drawing Luna had given me, a crayon sun over a house, and felt the walls closing in. Was I fighting a losing battle? My daughter's future slipping through my fingers? The temptation to retreat, to reclaim my old life, whispered in the dark. What would you do? I asked myself, when every door slammed shut. I touched the drawing, its warmth a faint pulse, and knew I couldn't surrender. But the path ahead was a tightrope, and I was running out of balance. In the dim light of a Palo Alto cafe, I sat alone, the weight of my family's assault and the board's threats pressing against me. The world felt like a closing vice, my fight for Luna and Harper teetering on the edge of defeat. Then Claire and Gwen, a Nexus board member who'd stood up during my confrontation with Marcus, walked in. Her presence was unexpected, her eyes carrying a quiet resolve. "Liam," she said, sitting across from me, "I believe you're doing the right thing." Her words were a lifeline, cutting through the fog of my isolation. Claire, a veteran executive who'd risen through tech's cutthroat ranks, had seen my boardroom confession not as weakness, but as courage. She shared her own story, a daughter she'd reconnected with after years of prioritizing work. "I know what it's like to choose wrong, then fight to make it right," she said, her voice steady. She'd watched my struggle with the Maxwells and the media, and chose to stand with me, not Nexus. "You're not alone in this," she added, her hand resting briefly on mine, a gesture of solidarity that anchored me. Claire's support was a spark in the dark, a reminder that my fight for my daughters wasn't just mine. What would you do? I wondered, when someone sees your truth. I'd hold on, I decided, and keep going. Her belief in me was a bridge to hope, one I hadn't dared cross until now. Claire's alliance grew into a partnership that fortified my resolve. Over coffee in that same Palo Alto cafe, we mapped out a plan to counter the Maxwell's campaign. Your family's playing dirty, she said, pulling up articles smearing Chloe. We need to shift the narrative. She connected me with a trusted PR consultant, Elena, who'd navigated corporate scandals. Together, we drafted a statement for Chloe's approval, affirming her strength as a single mother and my commitment to our daughters. Claire also introduced me to a lawyer, Michael, who specialized in corporate ethics and could investigate the board's threats. We met weekly, building trust through shared purpose. Claire's network became my shield. She rallied Nexus allies who'd been silenced by the board's pressure, their quiet support a growing current. I opened up about my fears, admitting to Claire how Chloe's distrust haunted me. Trust takes time, she said, her voice a calm anchor. Show up, Liam, every day. I did, visiting Luna and Harper when Chloe allowed. Reading to them, learning their favorite colors, blue for Luna, green for Harper. Each small moment was a brick in the foundation of faith we were building. What would you do? I asked myself. When allies lift you up, I'd lean in, I answered, and fight smarter. Claire's belief, paired with our growing team, turned my solitary battle into a shared mission, one I'd never face alone again. The spark Claire ignited began to spread, a wildfire of support that reached beyond our small circle. Elena's statement, released with Chloe's cautious approval, hit the press. And the response was seismic. Social media erupted with #TruthForChloe, single parents sharing stories of resilience, their voices echoing Chloe's struggle. A viral post from a teacher read, Liam's fight is ours, family matters more than money. In San Francisco, a group of Nexus employees organized a walkout, demanding transparency from the board, their signs reading Support Liam. Support Truth. Claire's contacts amplified the movement, with tech influencers tweeting solidarity, one with 1 million followers writing, Maxwell's story is a wake-up call. Prioritize people, not profit. The community's strength grew, with petitions circulating to protect Chloe's reputation, gaining 10,000 signatures in a day. I saw it in Palo Alto, too. Strangers nodded at me, their eyes warm, no longer suspicious. The tide was shifting, not just for me, but for the idea that love could outweigh legacy. What would you do? I wondered, when a community rises with you. I'd embrace it, I decided, and let it carry us forward. Luna and Harper's faces, their laughter in my memory, fueled me. The world was watching, not just to judge, but to join a fight for something real, a family, a truth, a chance to start again. The Maxwell family's retaliation struck with surgical precision, their power unleashed to crush my resolve. Evelyn, my mother, orchestrated a media blitz, unearthing a doctored email from my past, a fabricated exchange suggesting I'd known about Chloe's pregnancy and paid her to stay silent. The headline screamed across tabloids, Maxwell's secret payoff exposed. Social media erupted, with #LiarLiam trending, posts accusing me of manipulating Chloe for sympathy. My brothers, Daniel and Robert, fueled the fire, leaking old Nexus memos where I dismissed family as a distraction, twisting my words to paint me as a heartless opportunist. Their campaign wasn't just personal. It was a calculated assault to restore the Maxwell legacy by destroying mine. The board, emboldened, issued a public ultimatum: return as CEO or face a lawsuit for breaching fiduciary duty. Even Claire's allies wavered, their support shaken by the onslaught. In Palo Alto, Chloe's silence grew colder, her latest message cutting deep: your family's lies make me doubt you more. The world I'd fought for, Luna and Harper's world, seemed to slip away, buried under a tide of accusations. Evelyn's voice echoed from our Manhattan confrontation. You'll lose them all, Liam. Her prophecy loomed, a shadow I couldn't outrun. What would you do, I wondered, when your past is weaponized against you? I gripped Luna's crayon drawing, its colors fading under my touch, and felt the fight draining from me. I refused to let their lies bury the truth. I requested a meeting with Evelyn, flying to the Maxwell estate in Manhattan, the air heavy with the scent of old money and colder ambitions. She sat across from me in the oak-paneled study, Daniel and Robert at her sides, their faces stone. "End this, Liam," Evelyn said, her voice a velvet blade. "Sign over your Nexus shares, and we'll stop the leaks." I stood, my heart pounding but my resolve ironclad. "You hid my daughters from me," I said, my voice steady. "You don't get to dictate my life anymore." I presented evidence Claire's lawyer had uncovered, bank records showing Evelyn's payments to media outlets for the smear campaign, emails between Daniel and a tabloid editor crafting the fake payoff story. The world will know, I warned, projecting the documents onto a tablet. Evelyn's composure cracked, her eyes narrowing. But I pressed on. I'm fighting for Luna and Harper, for Chloe, not your legacy. Daniel lunged forward, his voice venomous. You'll ruin us. But I held my ground, my gaze locked on Evelyn's. This wasn't just a family feud. It was a moral stand, my final break from the Maxwell machine. What would you do? I asked myself, when the cost of truth is everything. I'd pay it, I answered. For my daughter's future. The room fell silent, the weight of my defiance a tangible force. The truth broke through like dawn after a long night. I released the evidence to the press. Claire's team ensuring its authenticity. The response was swift. Major outlets retracted the payoff story, issuing apologies. A New York Times expose detailed the Maxwell's campaign, naming Evelyn as its architect. Social media flipped, hashtag Justice for Liam trending as users shared my boardroom confession, now seen as raw honesty. A post from a father read, Liam's fight reminds me to show up for my kids. The board, facing public pressure, withdrew their lawsuit, with Claire leading a vote to restructure leadership, sidelining my family's allies. In Palo Alto, Chloe texted, her words cautious but open, I saw the news. Maybe we can talk. It wasn't trust, not yet, but it was a crack in the wall. I visited Luna and Harper. Their laughter a balm, their small hands and mine a promise of tomorrow. The Maxwell's influence waned, Evelyn retreating to silence, her empire dented. I stood in my office, the San Francisco skyline glowing, and felt a quiet victory, not over my family, but for the man I'd become. What would you do, I wondered, when truth wins? I'd keep going, I decided. For every moment with my girls. The fight wasn't over, but the path was clearer, lit by the hope of a family I'd never lose again. The triumph over my family's lies left a bitter aftertaste. The cost of truth heavier than I'd imagined. My Manhattan confrontation with Evelyn severed ties that had once defined me. She sent a final email, cold and final. You're no longer a Maxwell. My brothers, Daniel and Robert, cut contact, their silence a wall I couldn't breach. The family legacy, a tapestry of wealth and influence I'd once upheld, was now a relic I'd burned. Nexus Corp. 2 were scars. My partial withdrawal sparked a stock dip, costing investors millions and eroding trust in my leadership. Friends from the tech world, once loyal, drifted away. Their invitations replaced by curt nods at industry events. In Palo Alto, Chloe's cautious openness was a fragile thread, her trust still a distant shore. Luna and Harper knew me only as a visitor. Their small hands and mine a fleeting gift, not a bond. The public's praise, while warm, couldn't fill the void left by these losses. I stood in my San Francisco office, the skyline a reminder of a life I'd half abandoned, and felt the weight of what I'd sacrificed. What would you do? I wondered, when victory leaves you emptier than before. I clutched Luna's drawing. Its crayon sent a faint light, but the shadows of loss loomed large, threatening to swallow the man I was fighting to be. I faced the wreckage with open eyes, accepting the consequences as part of my path. Alone in my penthouse, I packed away relics of my old life, awards, photos with tech moguls, each item a tether to a Liam Maxwell I no longer was. I didn't mourn the Maxwell's rejection. Their world of control had never been mine. Nexus's turmoil stung, but I'd chosen my daughters over its throne, a trade I'd make again. Chloe's distance hurt most, her guarded replies a reminder of the years I'd lost. Yet, I understood her wariness. She'd built a life without me, her strength a fortress I had to earn my way into. I cut ties with social media, the noise of hashtag Justice for Liam a distraction from the quiet work ahead. I leased my San Francisco penthouse, its luxury a hollow echo, and moved to a modest Palo Alto apartment, closer to Luna and Harper. The solitude was stark, my evenings spent with their photos, tracing their smiles. What would you do? I asked myself. When the world you knew crumbles, I'd stand in the ruins, I answered, and build anew. Acceptance wasn't surrender, it was clarity. I'd lost much, family, status, ease, but gained a purpose. To be a father, to earn Chloe's trust, to live for moments that mattered more than any empire. From the ashes, I began rebuilding, not as a titan, but as a man. I enrolled in a parenting class in Palo Alto, learning to navigate tantrums and bedtime stories, each lesson a step toward being the father Luna and Harper deserved. I volunteered at their preschool, setting up art projects, my hands sticky with glue, their laughter a new currency. I wrote daily, not for the world, but for myself, journaling regrets and hopes, a map of the man I was becoming. I reached out to Chloe, offering small gestures, dropping off books for the girls, respecting her boundaries. Her replies grew softer, a tentative bridge forming. I sold a third of my Nexus shares. The fund's a seed for a new venture, a foundation for single mothers, inspired by Chloe's resilience. The work grounded me, its purpose a contrast to the abstract victories of tech. I walked Palo Alto streets, the California oaks whispering of renewal, their roots deep despite storms. What would you do? I wondered, when given a blank page. I'd write a new story, I decided. One of presence, not power. The man in the mirror was no longer a stranger, flawed, yes, but whole, his heart aligned with a future where Luna and Harper's laughter was home. In my modest Palo Alto apartment, the world's noise faded, but my heart still wrestled with its scars. Then, Chloe invited me to a quiet coffee shop on University Avenue. Her gesture unexpected after months of guarded distance. She sat across from me, her eyes searching, not with anger, but with a clarity that saw through my polished exterior. "I've watched you show up, Liam," she said, her voice soft yet piercing. Not for headlines, but for Luna and Harper. She spoke of my small acts, reading to the girls, volunteering at their preschool, and saw the man beneath the CEO, the one stumbling toward redemption. Chloe, a photographer whose lens captured truth, saw my raw, unfiltered self. A father learning to love, a man shedding his empire's weight. "You're not who you were," she added, her words a mirror reflecting a Liam I'd barely recognized. Her belief, born from years of resilience, shifted my perspective, like sunlight breaking through a forest canopy. She didn't absolve me, but her acknowledgement was a balm, soothing the wounds of my self-doubt. What would you do? I wondered. When someone sees your soul, I'd let it change me, I decided, leaning into the hope Chloe's gaze offered. Her presence was a gift, a chance to heal not through grand gestures, but through the quiet truth of being seen. Healing demanded I release the burdens I'd carried too long. I sat alone one night, Luna's crayon drawing beside me, and faced the guilt that had chained me. I'd failed Chloe, Luna, and Harper, my ambition blinding me to their existence. But I also saw Marcus, whose betrayal had hidden Chloe's pleas, and Evelyn, whose control had tried to erase my family. I wrote a letter to myself, words raw on the page. "You were wrong, Liam, but you're learning. Forgive yourself, not to forget, but to grow." I tore it up, the act of release, letting go of the self-loathing that had fueled my drive. Then, I thought of Marcus, his actions a wound, but also a man trapped by loyalty to an empire I'd built. I didn't excuse him, but I let go of hatred, its weight too heavy for the father I wanted to be. Evelyn's face lingered, her coldness a deeper cut, yet I whispered, "I release you," freeing myself from her shadow. Chloe's strength inspired me. She'd raised our girls without resentment, her heart unburdened by my absence. What would you do? I asked myself, when anger binds you. I'd choose freedom, I answered, for my daughter's sake. Forgiveness wasn't for them, it was for me. A clearing of the heart to make room for Luna and Harper's laughter, for a future untainted by past pain. The healing took root in a tangible act, a symbol of my renewal. I drove to a nursery in Palo Alto, the air thick with the scent of earth and green. There, I chose a small oak sapling, its leaves trembling in the breeze, a mirror to my fragile hope. I planted it in the backyard of my apartment, where Luna and Harper could play when they visited. As I pressed the soil around its roots, I thought of Chloe's words, her belief in my change. The oak was my promise to grow, to endure, to shelter my girls as they grew. Each shovel of dirt was a burial of my old self, the man who'd chased power over presence. I hung a small swing from its young branches, imagining Luna's squeals, Harper's fearless climb. The tree stood, not yet strong, but alive, its roots seeking depth as I sought mine. I watered it under the California stars, their light a quiet witness to my vow. What would you do, I wondered, when given a chance to start anew? I'd plant a seed, I decided, and tend it daily. The oak was my heart's marker, a living testament to a life rebuilt not on wealth, but on love, its growth a mirror to the family I was slowly, steadily reclaiming. The storm had passed, and I woke each morning in my Palo Alto apartment, the California sun filtering through the window, a quiet promise of renewal. My life was simpler now. Stripped of the penthouse's sheen and Nexus's relentless pulse, I brewed coffee in a small kitchen, the aroma grounding me, and walked 2 miles to Luna and Harper's preschool, where I'd volunteer. Chloe allowed more visits, her trust a slow bloom, and I cherished moments with the girls, pushing them on swings, their laughter a melody that drowned out my past. I traded suits for jeans. My days no longer dictated by boardroom clocks, but by the rhythm of family. The oak sapling in my backyard grew, its leaves a testament to time's gentle work. I'd left Nexus's helm, appointing Claire as interim CEO, my role now advisory, freeing me to be present. The world's noise, headlines, hashtags, faded, replaced by the crunch of gravel under my boots. The hum of a life rooted in love. What would you do, I wondered, when the chaos clears? I'd breathe, I decided, and live deliberately. Luna and Harper's small hands in mine. Chloe's cautious smiles, these were my anchors, a new existence built on presence, not power, where each dawn felt like a page turned in a story I was finally writing right. My new life demanded I give back, turning my journey into a beacon for others. I launched the Davis Foundation, named for Chloe's strength, using my sold Nexus shares to fund support for single mothers across California. In a small office in Palo Alto, I met women like Chloe, resilient, burdened by circumstance, and offered grants for education, childcare, and housing. I hired Marcus, who'd sought me out, remorseful, to manage projects, giving him a chance to redeem his past as I had mine. We opened a community center, its walls lined with Chloe's photographs, each frame a story of survival. I spoke at local events, sharing my failures and hopes, not as a tycoon, but as a father who'd learned late. Choose love over legacy. I told audiences, my voice steady, Luna's drawing in my pocket. The foundation grew, serving hundreds, its impact a ripple I felt in every thank you note from a mother who'd found hope. What would you do, I asked myself, when your pain becomes purpose? I'd share it, I answered. To lift others. The work wasn't charity, it was atonement, a way to honor Chloe's solitary years and ensure no one walked that path alone. Each life touch was a step toward a world where family, not empire, defined success. The foundation's work sparked a movement, its story spreading like wildfire through communities hungry for connection. Chloe, inspired by our efforts, began a photography workshop at the center, teaching single mothers to capture their lives, her art a bridge to healing. Her first exhibit, Unseen Strength, drew crowds, each image a testament to resilience, and I saw Luna and Harper beam at their mother's courage. Social media buzzed with hashtag Davis Foundation. Posts from participants sharing their transformations, a nurse who'd earned her degree, a mother who'd opened a bakery. I shared our story online, a YouTube video filmed under my oak tree. My voice raw. I lost years with my daughters, but I'm here now. Your story matters, too. It went viral, millions viewing, commenting. This is what redemption looks like. Local groups invited me to speak, and I urged audiences to share their own journeys, sparking forums where stories of reconnection flourished. What would you do, I wondered, when your truth inspires others? I'd amplify it. I decided to build a community. Luna and Harper's laughter, Chloe's art, the foundation's reach. These wove a tapestry of hope, connecting strangers in a shared belief. Love, not wealth, writes the stories that endure. I drove north to Seattle, the city where my heart had once broken, its skyline a silhouette against a gray Pacific sky. 5 years ago, under Pike Place's flickering streetlights, Chloe and I danced in the rain, her laughter a promise I'd failed to keep. Now, I walk those same cobblestones, the markets hum a faint echo of that night. The pain of my abandonment lingered here, a ghost in every rain-soaked corner. I stood where we'd stood, the damp air heavy with memory, and faced the wound I'd buried. This was the place where I'd chosen ambition over love, where Chloe's dreams of a real life clashed with my hunger for empire. I traced the path we'd taken, past fish stalls and flower vendors, each step a reckoning with the man I'd been. The guilt was sharp, but I didn't flinch. Luna and Harper's faces, their eyes so like mine, gave me courage to look back. I sat on a bench overlooking Puget Sound, the water's ripples mirroring my thoughts. What would you do, I wondered, when the past calls you back. I'd answer, I decided, to understand and grow. Seattle wasn't just a city, it was a mirror, reflecting the Liam who'd lost everything and the one now fighting to reclaim it. The rain fell softly, a cleansing as I left, ready to face the shadows still waiting. In San Francisco, I sought Marcus, the man whose betrayal had hidden Chloe's pleas. He'd reached out through the Davis Foundation, his remorse a quiet plea for redemption. We met at a park near the Golden Gate Bridge, the fog curling around us like a shroud. "Liam," he began, his voice low, "I was wrong. I thought I was saving you." I saw the weight he carried, his eyes hollow from years of loyalty to a machine I'd built. "You took my daughters from me," I said, not with rage, but with truth. My words steady as the bay's tide. He nodded, accepting the wound he'd caused. I spoke of Chloe's pain, the years she'd faced alone, and he listened, his head bowed. "I can't undo it," he said. "But I'm trying through the foundation." Our conversation wasn't about blame, but closure, a chance to release the anger that had once burned me. I thought of Luna and Harper, their laughter a beacon, and chose to see Marcus not as a villain, but as a man who'd erred, like me. "Keep doing the work," I told him, my voice firm but kind. "What would you do?" I asked myself. "When faced with the one who hurt you?" "I'd speak," I answered, "to free us both." We parted, the fog lifting slightly, a small step toward peace in a story no longer defined by pain. Back in Palo Alto, I saw the change in us both, me, and those I'd once fought. Marcus thrived at the foundation, his dedication a quiet atonement, his smile warmer when he spoke of helping families. I changed too. No longer the CEO driven by conquest, but a father whose heart beat for Luna and Harper's giggles. Chloe noticed it, her eyes softer when I dropped off books for the girls, her voice less guarded. At a preschool event, we stood together, watching Luna paint a mural, Harper chasing a butterfly. "You're different, Liam," Chloe said, her words a nod to the man I'd become. I saw it in myself. The oak sapling in my yard, now taller, mirrored my growth, its roots deeper as mine were. Even Evelyn, silent since our clash, sent a letter, brief but telling. "I see your work." Perhaps I was wrong. It wasn't an apology, but a shift, her eyes thawing under the warmth of my new life. "What would you do?" I wondered, "when change blooms in you and others?" "I'd embrace it," I decided, "and keep tending the roots." The past hadn't vanished, but it no longer ruled us. Under California's stars, I stood by my oak, Luna's drawing in hand, knowing we'd all grown toward light, toward love, toward a future we'd write together. I stood under the oak in my Palo Alto backyard, its leaves whispering in the evening breeze, and recorded a video for the world. My hands shook as I faced the camera, not as Liam Maxwell, tech titan, but as a father who'd faltered and risen. 5 years ago, I didn't know my daughters, Luna and Harper. I began, my voice raw. I built an empire but lost my family. I shared my journey, the shock of seeing my girls on a news screen, the betrayal of blocked calls, the fight against my family's lies. I spoke of Chloe's resilience, raising our daughters alone, and my slow climb to earn their trust. The Davis Foundation's work, born from my regrets, came alive in my words. Hundreds of single mothers supported, their stories now part of mine. I uploaded the video to YouTube, titled A Father's Redemption, expecting little but hoping for connection. Within days, it spread, millions viewing, their comments a chorus. "Your story saved my family." At a San Francisco community event, I shared it live. The crowd's silence a testament to its weight. What would you do, I wondered, when your truth can touch others? I'd share it, I decided, to light a path. The video wasn't just my story. It was a call to choose love over legacy, a beacon for anyone lost in their own storm. The video's reach ignited a spark, its message rippling through society like a stone in a still pond. Invitations poured in, TEDx talks, podcasts, community forums, each a chance to amplify the call for change. In Los Angeles, I spoke to a crowd of 2,000, urging them to prioritize family over ambition. My words echoing Chloe's dream of a real life. "Wealth fades," I said, "but love endures." The Davis Foundation grew, its centers now in 5 California cities, offering not just aid but hope. Chloe's photography workshops expanded, her art empowering mothers to tell their stories. One exhibit in San Diego drawing national acclaim. Social media buzzed with #ChooseLove. Users sharing tales of reconnection, a father visiting his son after a decade, a mother quitting a toxic job for her kids. Policy shifted too. A state senator, moved by our story, pushed a bill for single-parent support, citing the foundation's impact. I met her in Sacramento, my voice steady as I advocated for families like mine. What would you do? I asked myself. When your story reshapes the world. I'd lead, I answered, to honor Luna and Harper. The movement wasn't mine alone. Chloe's courage, the community's voices, wove a tapestry of change, proving that one family's truth could inspire a society to value heart over hustle. I wanted that spark to kindle hope in others, to show that redemption was possible for anyone. In my talks, I ended with a plea. If I, a man who lost everything, can find my way back, so can you. At a Palo Alto workshop, a woman approached me, tears in her eyes, saying, "Your video made me call my daughter after 3 years." Her words were a gift, proof that my story wasn't just mine. The foundation launched a campaign, Share Your Story, inviting people to post videos of their journeys. Thousands responding, a veteran reuniting with his siblings, a mother rebuilding after loss. Each tale, raw and real, fueled a global conversation. Hashtag Share Your Story, trending with millions of views. I read their words under my oak, Luna and Harper's laughter in the background, and felt a quiet power. What would you do, I wondered? When hope takes root, I'd nurture it, I decided, for every soul seeking light. The Foundation's website became a hub, linking storytellers to resources, building a network of resilience. My daughters, now calling me daddy, were my why, their future a world where no one felt alone. I stood by the oak, its swing swaying, and knew every story shared was a seed, growing a forest of hope for tomorrow. Standing beneath the oak in my Palo Alto backyard, its branches now sturdy enough to hold Luna and Harper's swing, I reflected on the path I'd walked. I had no regrets for this journey, despite its thorns. From the shock of discovering my daughters on a Silicon Valley screen to the battles against my family's lies. Each step had carved me into the man I was now. I'd lost much, my place among the Maxwells, Nexus Corp's throne, the ease of wealth, but gained a life richer than any empire. Luna's laughter as she painted with Chloe, Harper's fearless climb up the oak's trunk. These were my treasures. I'd faced betrayal, doubt, and isolation, yet each wound had pushed me toward truth. The Davis Foundation, born from my failures, now lifted hundreds, its ripple a testament to purpose found in pain. Chloe's growing trust, her hand brushing mine at a preschool event, was a victory no boardroom could match. If I could return to that rainy Seattle night, I'd still choose this path, knowing it led to my girls. What would you do, I wondered, when given a chance to rewrite your life? I'd walk it again, I decided, every step, for the love I'd found. This journey, raw and real, was mine, and I stood tall, proud of the father, the man I'd become under this oak's quiet watch. The pain that once broke me now shaped me, and for that, I was grateful. The ache of missing Luna and Harper's first years, the sting of Chloe's initial rejection, the weight of Marcus's betrayal, each was a teacher, harsh but wise. My father's cold words, "You're not enough," had driven me to build Nexus, but also to flee love, a lesson in what ambition costs. Chloe's solitary years, raising our girls while I chased hollow crowns, taught me resilience's true face. Even Evelyn's attempts to erase my family showed me the emptiness of legacy without heart. Under the oak, I traced these scars, not with bitterness, but with thanks. They'd forced me to confront my flaws, to shed the CEO's armor for a father's open hands. The Davis Foundation, my atonement, grew from this pain, its work a mirror to Chloe's strength. Each night, I journaled these lessons, the ink a map of growth. What would you do? I asked myself. When suffering becomes a gift, I'd embrace it, I answered, to live fully. The oak's roots, deep despite storms, echoed my own, strengthened by trials. Pain hadn't defeated me, it had built me, a man who loved fiercely, who stood for Luna and Harper, grateful for every tear that led me home. One truth crystallized my journey, a sentence that held its weight. I didn't win against the world. I stopped losing to myself. It was born under the oak, as I watched Luna and Harper swing, their laughter a melody of hope. This wasn't about conquering Nexus, the Maxwells, or even Chloe's doubts. It was about defeating the Liam who'd chosen fear over love, ambition over presence. Each choice, to face Marcus, to plant the oak, To build the foundation was a victory over the man who'd run from truth. I shared this in a new video, filmed at dawn, the oak silhouette behind me. We don't need to beat the world, I said, my voice steady, just the parts of us that hold us back. Posted online, it spread, millions resonating. This is freedom, one comment read. At a San Francisco talk, I ended with it, the crowd's applause a quiet affirmation. What would you do, I wondered, when one truth defines you? I'd live it, I decided, every day. The oak stood tall, its swing swaying, Luna's crayon sun now framed in my home. My story wasn't over, but its heart was clear. I'd found myself, not in triumph, but in surrender to love, a truth that lit the way for me. For my girls, for all who'd listen. Under the quiet shade of my Palo Alto oak, I took out a notebook, its pages blank but heavy with purpose, and wrote to the Liam of old. To the man who lost his way. I began, my pen tracing the contours of a life once lived in shadow. You were driven by fear, building nexus to silence your father's voice. You're not enough. You danced with Chloe in Seattle's rain, promising forever, but fled when ambition called, leaving her to carry Luna and Harper alone. You trusted Marcus, blind to his betrayal, and bowed to Evelyn's control, trading love for legacy. I wrote of boardrooms where you ruled, yet felt empty, of nights haunted by a void no deal could fill. You were broken, I confessed, but not beyond repair. Each word was a bridge to that younger self, not to condemn, but to understand. Luna's laughter, Harper's fearless eyes, they'd guided me back. I told him of the Davis Foundation, of Chloe's slow trust, of a life now rooted in presence. What would you do, I wondered, when facing your past self? I'd speak, I decided, with kindness. The letter was my reckoning, a dialogue across time, telling that lost Liam he was forgiven, that his pain had led me here, to a home where my daughter's voices were the only crown I needed. I turned the page, reflecting on what I'd once despised but now cherished. My weaknesses, those I'd loathed, were my greatest teachers. I hated my fear of failure, the gnawing doubt that pushed me to bury Chloe's love under Nexus's demands. Yet, that fear taught me to fight for Luna and Harper, to face Evelyn's lies with unwavering truth. I scorned my naivety, trusting Marcus to guard my world, only to find he'd hidden my daughters. But that betrayal showed me the value of discernment, leading me to allies like Claire. I detested my solitude, the years spent chasing power, isolated from warmth. Now, I saw it as a crucible, forging a man who valued every moment with his girls. Even my father's coldness, once a wound, I now thanked. It drove me to be the father I never had, reading bedtime stories with a tenderness he'd never shown. Under the oak, I wrote, these flaws weren't chains, they were chisels, shaping me. What would you do, I asked myself, when your weaknesses become strengths? I'd honor them, I answered, as roots. The California breeze stirred the oak's leaves, mirroring my gratitude for a past that, though painful, had sculpted a heart capable of love, deep and true. I closed the notebook and stood before a mirror in my Palo Alto apartment, the oak's shadow dancing through the window. For the first time, I looked at myself without shame. The lines on my face, etched by regret and resolve, told a story of survival. You're enough, I said, my voice steady, a vow to the man reflected there. I'd spent years running, from Chloe, from myself, hiding behind Nexus's towers. Now, I embraced every part, the Liam who'd failed, who'd fought, who'd grown. I thought of Luna and Harper, calling me daddy, their trust a mirror to my worth. Chloe's smile, softer now, reflected a man she saw anew. I walked to the oak, touching its bark, rough yet alive, like my own journey. I hung a new drawing from Luna, a family under a sun, beside the swing, a symbol of acceptance. What would you do, I wondered, when you finally see yourself? I'd hold tight, I decided, and live whole. The mirror no longer showed a stranger, but a father, a partner, a man who'd claimed his flaws and found his strength. Under the stars, I stood by the oak, my heart open, embracing the Liam I'd become, ready for every dawn with my daughters, my love, my truth. I sat beneath my Palo Alto oak, its sturdy branches cradling Luna and Harper's swing, and opened my notebook to write to Evelyn, the mother whose coldness had once fueled my rage. Evelyn, I began, my pen steady but heavy with memory. Your control shaped me, but it also broke me. I named the wounds, your dismissal of my childhood dreams, your demand for a legacy over love. Your attempt to erase Chloe and our daughters with a $10 million bribe. I recalled the Manhattan penthouse, your icy voice. You're tarnishing our name. I hated you for it. For seeing Luna and Harper as liabilities, for wielding the Maxwell name like a blade. Each word poured out, raw and unfiltered, listing the years I'd spent proving myself to you, only to lose myself. I wrote of the pain when you cut me off, declaring me no longer a Maxwell, and the fury that burned when your lies smeared Chloe. Yet, I also saw your fear, losing the empire you'd built. The only language you knew. This letter wasn't to wound, but to release, to name the hurt you caused so I could lay it down. What would you do, I wondered, when facing the one who scarred you? I'd write, I decided, to set myself free. The oak sleeves rustled, a witness to my truth. As I closed the page, the weight of hatred lifting, if only a little. I turned inward, realizing resentment no longer held me captive. Evelyn's actions, her campaign to discredit Chloe, her rejection of me, had once been chains, each lie a link forged in my anger. But now, standing by the oak, I saw her not as a tyrant, but as a woman bound by her own fears, her world a fortress of control that left no room for warmth. I didn't excuse her, she'd hurt my family, my daughters, but I chose to let go of the bitterness that had tethered me to her power. Marcus's betrayal, too, faded in its sting. His work at the Davis Foundation showed a man seeking redemption. As I had, Chloe's strength, raising Luna and Harper without spite, was my guide. She'd lived free of hate, her heart open despite my absence. I thought of my girls, their laughter a melody untainted by my past. Holding on to resentment would only dim their light. I release you, Evelyn, I whispered, the words a quiet vow. What would you do? I asked myself. When anger weighs you down, I'd choose lightness, I answered, for my family's sake. I wasn't forgiving to ease Evelyn's conscience, but to free my own. To walk unburdened into a future where Luna and Harper's love was enough. The oak stood firm, its roots a mirror to my resolve, grounded in peace. I took the letter to Evelyn, folded tightly, and stood by the Palo Alto Creek near my home, its waters glinting under the California sun. I didn't send it. Words alone couldn't bridge our chasm, but I needed to let it go. I tore the pages, each rip a release, and let the fragments fall into the creek, watching them drift like leaves on a journey I no longer needed to follow. The act was my liberation, a symbol of shedding the anger that had once defined me. I thought of Luna and Harper, their small hands in mine, and Chloe's growing trust, her smile a promise of tomorrow. This wasn't about Evelyn's redemption, but mine, a father choosing love over legacy, presence over pain. I walked back to the oak, its swing swaying gently, and hung a new drawing from Harper, a heart around our family. What would you do, I wondered, when the past no longer binds you? I'd step forward, I decided, unencumbered. The creek carried my anger away, its ripples a quiet song of freedom. I stood by the oak, my heart open, the California sky vast above, knowing I'd forgiven not for Evelyn, but for the man I'd become, a father, a partner, whole at last, ready for every moment with my daughters, my love, my truth. I sat by the Palo Alto Creek, its gentle ripples catching the golden light of a California dusk, and let silence envelop me. The world's clamor, headlines, hashtags, the Davis Foundation's hum, faded into a quiet hum, leaving only the creek's soft song and the rustle of my oak's leaves nearby. Luna and Harper's laughter echoed in my memory, their small hands painting murals with Chloe, a scene that needed no words. I closed my eyes, the breeze brushing my face like a whisper from the earth, and felt time pause. No need to speak, to plan, to fight, just to be. The creek's flow mirrored my journey, steady despite rocks in its path, and I breathed with it, each inhale a release of burdens carried too long. The oak stood tall, its swing still, a silent witness to my transformation. I thought of Chloe's trust, growing like the sapling's roots, and the lives we'd touched through the foundation. This moment, wordless and pure, was a gift, a space to feel the weight of love, not loss. What would you do, I wondered, when silence speaks louder than words? I'd listen, I decided, and let it heal. The creek shimmered, the sky deepened, and I sat, whole in the stillness. A father, a man, at peace with the path that led me here. I turned to the camera, set up under the oak, its lens a window to the world, and spoke directly to those watching. If you're lost in your own darkness, I'm here, waiting for you, I said, my voice steady, eyes meeting the invisible audience. I shared the quiet of that creek moment, how it held me when words failed. I was a man who built towers to hide from love, I confessed, but Luna and Harper, Chloe, they showed me the way back. I spoke of the pain, missing my daughter's first steps, facing Evelyn's betrayal, and the hope found in small acts, reading bedtime stories, planting an oak. The Davis Foundation's work, Chloe's art, our shared redemption, they were proof that no one is too far gone. You're not alone, I said, my voice soft but firm, whether you're a parent, a dreamer, or someone who stumbled. I invited them to pause, to find their own creek, their own silence, where truth could bloom. What would you do? I asked myself, when you can reach a heart. I'd open mine, I answered, and speak true. The oak sleeve stirred, Luna's drawing frame beside me, and I felt connected, not just to my family, but to every soul-seeking light. My words a bridge across their struggles. I leaned closer to the camera, the California stars now visible above, and made a final plea. Tell me your story, I urged, my voice warm, inviting. Your journey, your pain, your hope. It could be the light someone needs tomorrow. I spoke of the #ShareYourStory campaign, how thousands had posted videos, each a thread in a tapestry of resilience. A father's reunion. A mother's triumph. Each tale had saved another. Your voice matters, I said, thinking of Luna and Harper, their courage in every crayon stroke. I asked viewers to share in comments, on social media, or at the Foundation's site, to join a community where no story was too small. Luna and Harper taught me love is louder than fear, I shared, and your story can teach someone else. I pointed to the oak, its swaying, a symbol of growth. What would you do, I wondered, when you can spark a movement? I'd call others, I decided, to rise. The video ended with a #YourStoryNow, and an invitation to Palo Alto's next workshop. I stood by the creek, the oak behind me, knowing each story shared would ripple, like water, carrying hope to shores I'd never see. Linking us all in a world where love wrote the final word. I stood under my Palo Alto oak, its swaying gently, and faced the camera, my heart full as I spoke to those who'd followed my story. Thank you, I began, my voice warm with gratitude, for walking this path with me from the first shock to this quiet moment. You've watched me falter, discovering Luna and Harper on a Silicon Valley screen, facing Evelyn's lies, rebuilding with Chloe's trust. Your comments, your shared stories, have been a lifeline, each one a thread in the tapestry of our shared humanity. I thought of a single mother's note. Your journey gave me courage to reconnect with my son. Your voices, million strong, carried me through dark nights, reminding me I wasn't alone. The Davis Foundation, Chloe's art, our family's redemption, they're yours too, built on the hope you've given us. I pressed my hand to my chest, Luna's drawing in my pocket, its crayon sun a symbol of your light. You've seen me, raw and real, I said, and I'm grateful for every moment you've stayed. What would you do? I wondered, when others lift your story. I'd honor them, I decided, with thanks. The oak's leaves whispered, the creek nearby sang, and I stood, humbled, knowing your presence had shaped this father, this man, into one who could love deeply, thanks to you. I looked to the horizon, the California stars emerging, and promised a future rooted in love. I don't know what lies ahead, I said, my voice steady, but I'm not afraid anymore. Luna and Harper, now calling me Daddy, are my compass, their laughter guiding every step. Chloe and I, building trust, plan a life together, perhaps a home by the creek, where our girls can grow wild and free. The Davis Foundation will expand, reaching more families. It centers a haven for hope. I'll keep sharing, not as a titan, but as a father, my videos a beacon for those lost in their own storms. I see workshops with Chloe, her photography healing hearts, and community events under this oak, where stories are shared. The past, Nexus, Evelyn, my own failures, taught me to choose presence over power, and I vow to live that truth. I'll show up. I promised, for my daughters, for Chloe, for you. What would you do? I asked myself, when the future calls. I answered, with courage. The oak stood tall, its roots deep, mirroring my resolve to build a life where love writes every chapter, a future bright with the promise of family, community, and truth. I leaned into the camera, the oak silhouette behind me, and called you to act. Don't keep your story silent, I urged, my voice earnest. Share it, your pain, your hope, your light. The hashtag Your Story Now campaign waits for you. A space where every voice matters. Post a video, comment, join our Palo Alto workshop. Let your truth ripple, as mine did, saving someone you'll never meet. Luna and Harper taught me love is louder than fear, I said, their drawings framed beside me. Your story could teach another. I invited you to the Foundation's site, to share, to connect, to build a world where no one walks alone. If you've risen from your darkest day, I said, tell us how. You're the hope we need. The creek's song rose, the stars blazed, and I ended with an open heart. I'm here, waiting for your story. What would you do, I wondered, when you can change a life? I'd call out, I decided, and listen. The oak swing moved. Luna and Harper's laughter in my soul, as I closed with hashtag Your Story Now, a seed planted for a forest of stories, growing under the same sky, bound by love's enduring word.